Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 289 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is Your Energy is Contagious. Our quote of the day comes to us from T. Harv Eker. Energy is contagious. Either you affect people or you infect people. Before we jump into today's episode, don't forget to grab yourself a copy of our new book, The Positivity Tribe. You can grab it by heading over to thepositivitytribe.com. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our show, please do so, as well as leaving us a review and a rating, as it really helps us spread both our message and our mission to more people. I had an absolute blast recording today's episode. RJ Barsh is an incredibly positive person, and there is no doubt that his energy is definitely contagious. I know you will enjoy today's episode. RJ, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
I'm happy to be here, man. Spread positivity. That is the name of the game for me. And I want to win in that game daily. So let's get this show on the road.
I love it. I'm going to skip my first question and just go to the second. So the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you had either a no-quit story of your own or perhaps a really challenging time in your life where you could have given up or given in, but you didn't.
I mean, I probably got about 100 of them. There's like three that stand out the most. From a practical standpoint, I was my first year as a head coach at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida, good old Polk County, which is about 3,000 miles from home. I was 28 years old, and we had lost 7 games in a row. And I came from a championship background, so I had never experienced that as a leader. I had opportunity to either back out of the situation, say I wasn't going to be good enough to accept the challenges, or embrace every single ounce of what I was going through. I had 2 decisions. One, I could park right in front of the gym, and I could walk up to my office and I could hide in there and say I was putting in work trying to get better. 2, I could park at the soccer field and I could walk through the entire campus and smile and be contagious with joy, even though I was losing basketball games. I did not want my joy to be limited to, are we winning on the court? And so I challenged myself. And so after that 5th loss, I started parking at the soccer field, and I walked through that entire campus every single day, carrying my bag, my water, looking at the students, looking at the teachers. And it really built this kind of resolve in me that I was coaching for more than just my guys, coaching more for me. I was coaching for families that, I would never meet, that love to wear the brand that I was coaching for. Fast forward a year from that day, we were 27-7, ranked 3rd in the country, and lost in the Final Four. And I still walked campus from the soccer field to the basketball court. And I had a teacher stop me and ask me how I was doing. And I said, I'm doing great. And she said, well, when's your season start? And I was like, man, we're leaving for the Final Four. We're leaving for the national tournament in a week. And so it blew me away that that teacher didn't know that we were headed to the national tournament, which was a record experience for the school. It also made me understand that last year when I was walking through that campus, or the year before, and we were losing, they weren't seeing the losses either. I was making it so big in my head when it was small in the worlds of others. And so I'm glad I didn't quit, because I needed that conversation to help me understand that the things that I love the most, I maybe make them too big about how others look at me through that lens. I thought it was the worst game of my life. They just having coffee, sitting on the side, not thinking nothing about me. And so that was huge for me in my development as a coach, to not read the eyes of people and think that they were demeaning my last failure.
That's awesome. I think that's an incredible story. And I think the interesting perspective is you took it upon yourself to park at the soccer field and take the second answer, the second road, which was going into the community, seeing the kids, seeing the teachers, and I think that's so important. And it reminds me of the word culture. And I think all successful teams, all successful companies, organizations, charities, they have that strong culture. And I believe that the culture is always built foundation first. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing today and where you're coaching now.
I am the assistant coach at Boise State University for Leon Rice, who is, in my estimation, one of the best leaders I've ever been around in my life, just the way that he leads. I'm the director of player development, and I like to call myself the head coach of joy. And so I'm saying there's not going to be a day where you don't see the smile on my face. And so that's where I'm at, developing our team right now, coaching a lot via Zoom, right? But getting things done still. I've enjoyed it. We won 20 games last year. Our season was cut short. We were headed probably to the NIT. So we're still waiting for our opportunity to show America what we're about. I think that's
really key. What you said is the head coach of joy. So assistant coach on the actual staff, but the head coach of joy. And I think it just really stands out to me because as a former college basketball coach myself, is people sometimes I feel get fixated with titles and things that they're supposed to do or not supposed to do. And I've just met some incredible people over the last couple of years that take it upon themselves, whether they're a head coach, associate head coach, assistant, director of basketball operations, or even graduate assistants, and they take it upon themselves and say, regardless of the title, I can help this team in X, Y, Z. And I can help the players, and I can be that person who helps inspire, motivates, supports, and encourages the team. And if you look at any sports team, whether it's the best college football team, the best college basketball team, or the people in the middle, they have so many people that step up all the time. And I'm really glad that you shared that. But I've never heard that, the head coach of joy. I like that. So, interesting question I ask everybody is, if you had to define yourself, but you could only pick one word, what word would you pick?
Contagious.
Why do you pick that one?
Because I feel like your energy is contagious, your spirit is contagious, and you get to choose what you're going to be contagious with. And I don't want to choose that, if somebody meets me, that they're going to say, oh, he's contagious with love or joy or respect or power or these things. I just want them to catch whatever they need to catch when they come within that 6 feet of social distancing with me. I want them to be able to catch something. And so I try to make sure I'm present in those moments so they can catch whatever they need to catch from my spirit. And so for me, it's just being contagious, like literally being contagious. And to be contagious means that I have to have something. And so I want to have something to give. And so that means I gotta be depositing a lot of things into my life. So the word is, for me, contagious.
And for our listeners who are listening to this, you can't see this. I have to say that RJ has been smiling the entire time. So I think it's so true. You emit certain things, everybody. Your smile is contagious, your energy, your passion, your joy is contagious. And I can definitely see it as you answer these questions. So one of the things we do and over the past couple of years is looking at a morning routine and the importance of starting your day out. And I was curious if you have a morning routine that you swear by.
100%. I started doing it 11 years ago. It's called the AIM routine. It's, waking up with affirmation and then also having some imagination and then some meditation or mindfulness or prayer or whatever people fit in that box. For me, it starts at night. And basically I have, I don't know if I have my bottle here, but basically I start with the water bottle, 16.9 ounces. I rip off the cover of the water bottle at night and I write a word on that water bottle, right? I'll write a word, I'll write a phrase or something on that water bottle. And that's setting my intention before I go to bed. As soon as I wake up, I keep that bottle of water on top of my phone. When my phone goes off, or usually I wake up before the alarm, first thing I do is I drink that water and I wait 15 minutes before I touch my phone. And after that 15 minutes, I have my affirmation. I've imagined who I want to be that day. I've imagined what I'm trying to get that day. I'm being intentional with my thoughts. And then I'll spend some quiet time, either meditations, prayer, whether it's contemplative prayer, whether it's like, praying for the day, praying for my wife. And then once that's done and that water's gone, I leave my room. And I always tell myself, I'm not leaving that room until I feel like I'm getting ready to be who I really want to be. If I'm not ready to be that person, don't leave the room. And there's been moments where it's more than 15 minutes, but over time, what I've seen is those words shape my day. And so I call it the AIM routine, affirmation, imagination, and meditation. And I call it the AIM simply because when I was explaining to somebody not too long ago, they said, that spells AIM. I was like, no, I didn't. Appreciate that. So that's my routine. And I swear by it, because you don't get on the treadmill of worry before you can get yourself gathered. I think a lot of times we wake up, we look at our phone, notifications begin to run our day, email runs our day, our kids run our day, our spouse runs our day. You've got to protect your energy first if you want to be contagious in the right way. So that works for me. I'm a big water drinker. I drink tons of water. So that's how it just started, with just writing words on my gallon jug. And then I would write it at night before the next day, getting up really early in the morning. And then just, it shaped me.
That's really cool. I've never heard that about writing water on the water before the night. And I can see how, it's one of the first things you see the next day. And so many people that we've interviewed, again, successful people from all walks of life, they have something that they do, a morning routine, an evening routine. And to your point, it's the one thing that you can control before your day begins. And I think as I've been asking that question now almost 300 times, I'm almost getting like a PhD in morning routines, and I'm seeing the value of it. So I appreciate you expanding on yours. As we're always looking to add value, we truly believe the value in books. And I'm curious if you're reading something currently, or perhaps you read something recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
Probably the best book that I've read when I first started coaching was given to me by someone from the Orlando Magic franchise. It was by Pat Williams. I believe it was The Paradox of Power, or Paradox of Leadership. And the reason why I love that book so much is because he outlines his story of, he started out in baseball ownership and then moved over to basketball, but it's all relationship based. And so reading his book and also being in a room with him, seeing his humility, made the book stick even more. And so it's called The Paradox of Leadership. I believe it's Paradox of Leadership or Paradox of Power, one of those two. And I've gave that book away probably 12, 13 times. So I bought like 15 of them at one time and just kind of gave it away, because when that question's asked, I like to make sure that I can respond with the application of it.
I love that. I've done the same thing so many times, is gifting books that have had an impact on me. And that's one of the reasons, selfishly, for myself and for our listeners, why I asked that question, because John C. Maxwell, who was a mentor of mine, that's one of the questions he asks every single time he has lunch or dinner or coffee or breakfast with somebody, is what are they reading? Because that's how he gets some of the new books that he reads. And the reason is because people that have had an impact on you by your reading and people you follow and listen to typically share with other people. And I think it's a fascinating question to ask, and again, to share knowledge. And the fact that you've gifted that book to many people, and I've read that book myself, it's a fantastic book. So if you could go back and give the 20-year-old version of yourself only one piece of advice, what would that be?
Be slow to speak. I think in my ambition, my mouth was way ahead of my heart and my ears. And so I think a lot of times even if it was the right thing to say, it was the wrong moment. And even if it was the right thing to say, it's probably the wrong energy. And so to be able to listen better, so I can take care of my players better, so I can hear from my mentors better, I would be slow to speak. Tell my 20 to, just it's okay to be methodical in these areas, because our culture is not methodical. And so I joined the rat race, and I've always told people this: if you're on the rat race and you win the race, you're still a rat. And so get out of the race and be methodical.
No, and I think to your point, today it's everything quick, instantaneous, and within that, you don't think as much. You don't materialize those thoughts? And is this the best thing to say? Could I say a little bit differently? It's just boom, boom, boom. And I know so many people get in trouble, especially on social media, because they read something or see something and they just respond immediately. And as you know, you can't take that back. Once it's out there, people have seen it. You can delete it at some point, but people have seen it. So another question I ask, and I'm curious to get your answer, is if you could have dinner with anybody and you could pick anybody dead or alive, who would you pick and why?
I would pick James, Jesus' little brother. The reason I would pick James is because here's a guy that knew Jesus intimately, that knew Jesus before he was Jesus, and kind of led the church after Jesus' resurrection. And he writes a letter to people suffering. Here's somebody who spent so much time with Jesus, and his letter is so applicable beyond generations. There's no, here's the doctrines of your religion, here's how you should do this. It's literally love people, love people, love people. So the person who is the closest to what a lot of people would say is, the Savior, Jesus, and, the deity, like, this is what he wrote. He didn't write something that was confusing or just overarching to where you couldn't, stand on it. He wrote something that has no sides. It is just based in, hey, just love people. And so to me, I would love to sit down with James and ask him how hard it was, one, to follow after Jesus, and then how once he figured out that it was all about love, how easy it was.
That's advice I think we need so much in our country today. Love people, love people, love people. And I think it's what our country was based upon, is helping others, people coming from different countries, people needing help, people asking for help, coming for a better life, better opportunities. And I'm glad you touched on that. So we're going to switch lanes into what we call our hot seat questions. And the only thing we request of you is that you spit out the first thing that comes to mind. Last meal, you can pick absolutely anything. What do you pick?
Fried chicken.
Favorite smell?
Lavender.
Favorite sport?
Basketball.
All-time favorite team?
Sonics.
Favorite movie?
Con Air.
Ooh. Can you fly? No. All right. All-time favorite author?
Geez, that's a good tough one. Malcolm Gladwell.
What is your favorite app that you have on your phone?
Force.
What is the background picture on your phone?
My baby boy.
Do you have an all-time favorite book?
Bible.
And do you have an all-time favorite quote?
No.
Who's that by?
I have no idea.
So
I don't.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's why it's the hot seat. You answer what comes out. So one of the words we often dissect, and I'm interested in your answer, is the word accountability. I'm curious, what does accountability mean to you, or how do you personally define accountability?
Accountability to me is, I will explain it this way. Accountability feels like an attack without a relationship. And so accountability is something that requires you to be transactional in moments so you can be changed. And I think sometimes accountability doesn't work because it comes across as disrespect. And I think accountability sometimes doesn't work because our culture looks at accountability as someone holding you back or someone not believing in you. So unless you have a relationship, I feel like accountability can be a negative term. Accountability is great until you're the one being held accountable. And so for me, accountability is to be held accountable for what is you're responsible for. The biggest thing in accountability at the end of the day, though, is your leader should not hold you accountable to their beliefs. They should have a conversation with you so they held you accountable to what you're trying to be. That's how I think it works the best, is when the leader says, who do you want to be? Oh, you want to be this, and they catch you not doing that, and they say, hey, didn't you say this is what you wanted? And these behaviors don't match up to what you're saying. So holding them accountable for their actions. To me, that's been the best way it's worked for me, is when it's been that two-way street of relationships. But then if you're in that mentee role, you've got to give your mentor the green light and the red carpet to be impactful in your life in that way. And I think that's vital.
No, it's so important. And I love that you touched on that two-way street. And we talk often about accountability partners. And that's the big thing, why they work, the ones that are a two-way street. You hold them accountable and they hold you accountable as well. I wanted to ask, during these challenging times, are there one or two people that you follow on social media that you'd like to possibly recommend to our listeners that spread positive messages and inspire you?
I feel like I'm on the hot seat with that one because I'm thinking through my feed right now, trying to see who do I follow. Isaiah Thomas, the basketball player from University of Washington, on Instagram. I say Isaiah Thomas simply because he shows being a father, and he's always with his kids, and that's a season of life I'm in. So that's brought a lot of joy to being present at home versus, taking advantage of that. Because most, you coach college basketball, you don't really get to be home like we're home right now. And my son's 11 months old. So seeing Isaiah with his kids, his two boys, that brings a lot of joy and perspective to my life. And then I would say on Twitter, let's go Plies. Plies is a rapper, but he be dropping some real life knowledge on current events that are sometimes comical, but the way he presents it is in his car. He's laughing, he's joyful, and he's not what he looks like in a sense of what people assume. And so I like Plies a lot. And a few of my former assistant coaches always will send me a video like, "Hey, your boy Plies just dropped some knowledge." So I'll go with Isaiah Thomas and Plies, a little probably random two guys right there.
But I love that question because it's things that stand out to you, and it's things that apply to you, and possibly recommending these to other listeners. It just expands what you're seeing and the value of social media. And I say that because I personally truly believe in the power of social media. And the reason I say that is because the algorithms are designed a specific way. It's based on what you like, what you comment on, the things you share, the things you post, and then all of a sudden you see those things and you see more of them. So if you're spreading positivity, and if there are people that are out there that have a positive impact on you, trying to impact and change the lives of others, we want to do the same thing to our listeners because they're going to spread it onto other people as well. So I'm glad you touched on those two. And an interesting question for you is, how do you stay positive each and every day, especially during these challenging times?
My morning routine is rock solid. It's allowed me to live one day at a time. I think before I had the morning routine, I was, worried about my future, sometimes disappointed in my past, which made me look for escapes in the present. I think once I started the morning routine and made it really about just being intentional with it and not doing it just because someone said this is what you should do. I didn't know I had a routine until I explained it to a couple people. So I would say that. And also riding my bike and get it in nature. Seeing just different things outside has really allowed me to have peace and have joy, and just, taking advantage of the slowdown and knowing this, that I'm not positive in a sense to where I don't have fear and I don't see that there's a lot of trauma and things going on in the world. It's not like I'm masking my problems with fake positivity. What I'm saying is, if I got two hands and they both boxing gloves, one of them is going to be positive, and that's going to be the one that knocks out my problem. So I'm going to swing with that one the hardest. And I'm not going to swing with the pessimistic one, even though you got to sometimes look at it through that lens. And so for me, it's just focusing on those things. And then one of your questions made me think is, I really don't go to social media in a sense right now to get any type of inspiration or motivation or whatnot, simply because it's unpredictable. Based on being a college coach and the kids that you follow and the things that are in your feed, you can sometimes find yourself, being fed by the wrong thing. And so what I've kind of had to do is mute my feeds a little bit and be more of just putting out content, because I really want to protect my peace. And there's a lot of things that happen on your timeline that steal moments from you, and I'm trying to be cautious with that.
I love it. And I think it's important to put out your own stuff. And again, that goes back to my question about algorithms, or my comment about algorithms, because that's what you put out there. And I think that's really important, not only in general, but especially during these challenging and difficult times. So what's the best way for our listeners to follow you, connect with you, or find out more about you?
If you go on Instagram or Twitter and you type in Coach RJAY BARSH, my page will come up. You'll see this dude with a big smile, either on my bike or in my living room, making a 60-second video on motivation, talking about life or coaching. So that's Coach RJ Barsh. If you put in the hashtag anywhere, Sky Motivation, that's Sky, SKY, and then motivation. If you put that hashtag anywhere, you'll see some of my quotes come up. I look to the sky for my motivation. And so that's where that came from. Gosh, probably in like 2007, 2008, I started doing that. And so, yeah, I'm very active on social media. I have my Linktree account attached to my social media, so you can go find other podcasts and, other things I do for educators in that sphere when it comes to racial reconciliation and things we're doing in the community. And so, yeah, that's right there on social media in Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. And then last question for you is if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
I think there's 3 emotions that we all have that we get free. And unless we share them, give them away, or fight for them, then I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And those 3 emotions are faith, hope, and love. And I really believe hope is not hope unless you fight for it. And love is not love unless you share it. And then faith is not faith unless you believe in it. So hope, love, and faith are the 3 things that you wake up and you have. You don't purchase those things. You have them. You've got to fight for it. You've got to share it, and you've got to believe in it. And for me, that seems so fleeting at times, but there's also moments where it feels like the best thing I've ever thought about in my life is those 3 things. And I know one thing, whenever my life is gone, I want there to be massive evidence that I lived. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of money, a lot of resources that when they're gone, no one knows they were here. And I think the way that you leave evidence is you leave evidence by the way you are with people. And so if I'm giving away hope, if I'm fighting for love, and I'm doing the belief, then I know that they're going to remember that, the Barsh family was here. RJ Barsh was in Boise. He was in Lakeland. He was in Tacoma. And so those are my parting words: hope, faith, and love, man. Fight for those 3 things, believe in those 3 things, and share them every day.
I love it. I think it's a awesome way to end today's podcast. And I definitely recommend for our listeners to follow you on social media. And I know that you and I will connect again soon.
Yes, sir. This was an excellent opportunity today. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to episode number 289. RJ shared a story about how he made a decision during a tough 7-game losing streak not to hide, but instead to park at the other end of the school and walk through the campus with the students that paid dividends for him as well as his program. RJ swears by his morning routine, which to no surprise actually begins the night before, something that so many of our guests have been saying of recent. In his parting words, RJ shared 3 emotions that we all have: hope, faith, and love. My challenge to everyone today, no matter what you might be dealing with or what you might be facing, make sure you both express and fight for hope, faith, and love. And remember, we rise by lifting others up.
And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.